Why did this aircraft take the parking route early? The A220 was released in 2029. It's a shame. It was flying in the skies in 2019. The Airbus A220 was liked by everyone because it consumed very little fuel and was made of lightweight materials. It could make long flights at low cost. Technologically, it was ahead of its time, resembling something from 2030. These planes only lasted 5 years in this world. No one knows why. How could the value of this groundbreaking aircraft decline so sharply in such a short time? The aircraft is only part of the solution. Other factors include tactics, costs, and unseen technical issues. Section 2. What makes the A220 so important? In reality, this aircraft did not align with the company's own design. The Canadian government provided significant support for the initial development of the aircraft, known as the Bombardier CSeries. The world was facing financial difficulties due to the pandemic, and this aircraft experienced those challenges. After taking over, Airbus renamed the project A220. Airbus added the name Victory to it. In this class, the aircraft was unrivaled. It had fuel efficiency, it had quiet engines, it had a range of 3,450 nautical miles, approximately 6,400 kilometers. It had a capacity of 100 to 150 passengers. The A220 was ideal for small and medium-sized markets. The A220 entered the market at an excellent time, especially in the post-pandemic period when demand for longer range but lower capacity aircraft increased. However, something went wrong, and the aircraft suddenly went out of production. Section 3. What happened to the scrapped A220s? The news that these aircraft would no longer fly and that 5 years had passed was disappointing for everyone. The aircraft were being scrapped. This timeline was extremely early. Normally, it would take 20 years. When an aircraft is scrapped after only 5 years, it indicates either significant damage or a poor investment choice. However, there were numerous factors contributing to the A220's early retirement. The first reason was that the landing gear had numerous issues. However, the cost of resolving the technical issue was a greater concern than the issue itself. The A220's components, particularly the landing gear connections, used lightweight materials which contributed to these issues. This not only makes the aircraft lighter and more efficient, but also complicates spare part procurement, increases repair costs, and requires specialized knowledge. Since this aircraft is newer and different from others, finding materials is challenging, whereas it is easier for other models. Although it may take weeks, Airbus is sending some critical parts from its production facility in Montreal. Most of the materials are made of lightweight carbon fiber. This not only makes the aircraft lighter and more efficient, but also requires specialized knowledge, increases repair costs, and complicates spare part supply. For example, the A220 spare parts network is still relatively small, whereas thousands of spare parts for the Boeing 737 or Airbus A320 are readily available worldwide. Airbus ships some basic parts from its production facility in Montreal, but this process can take weeks. Section 5. The PW1500G crisis and the A220's engine problem. Pratt & Whitney's PW1500G engines are the backbone of the A220. These engines were introduced as pioneers of geared turbofan technology. The aim of these engines was to be environmentally friendly, which is why everyone loved this aircraft. However, in 2024, the engine experienced a malfunction. Cracks had formed in the engine blades, and repairs were necessary. After using the spare engines, there were no more engines left. As a result, airlines were left with unusable aircraft. The engines had been transferred to other aircraft or were undergoing maintenance. This situation also applies to E2 aircraft. However, the A220 was more important because it was a more familiar type of aircraft. Section 6. Who was affected? Air Sinai, this fleet included the first A220s to be scrapped. The decision was made due to operational concerns and spare parts costs. Delta was also affected, and most significantly so. The reason is that they have the most of them, and they park their planes. Air Baltic is one of the few airlines with a fleet consisting solely of A220 aircraft. As a result, they began to experience problems with engine supply. Swiss, this airline loved this aircraft, but parked it due to engine issues. Ironically, despite many airlines being operationally satisfied with the A220, issues related to engines, parts, and maintenance have further solidified the aircraft's reputation as successful but problematic. This aircraft was a marvel of engineering, but when these issues arose, it left everyone with a big question mark in their minds. In the second-hand market, confidence in the A220 has declined due to its relatively low production numbers, an immature supply chain, and the likelihood of frequent engine issues. This aircraft company is #1 in the narrow-body aircraft market, and this aircraft could be the fastest growing. In this context, leasing companies view the A220 as a high-potential but high-risk investment. There was too much risk for some, who either leased the aircraft or dismantled it piece by piece and sold it like scrap metal. Section 8. Rebirth or threat to the future. Despite all these issues, the Airbus A220 still holds significant potential. Airbus plans to increase production rates and expand its supply chain in 2024 and 2025. They have received approval from the engine manufacturer and aim to improve the engine further. Meanwhile, many airlines continue to highlight the unique advantages the A220 offers. Long-range access to small airports, passenger comfort, wider seats and a quieter cabin, fuel efficiency, and the performance of a wide-body aircraft, especially on regional routes. For this reason, the aircraft is considered #1 in the eyes of many. However, Airbus must resolve several key issues to maintain this appeal. Will they improve the engine? Chapter 9. Why were they scrapped? When we look at the whole picture, we understand. Due to engine problems, we rarely see these aircraft in the air. These problems go beyond operational sustainability for airlines with small fleets, even though some are able to manage such situations. It is important to sell the parts before the aircraft becomes obsolete. Chapter 10. Is the A220's strategic role still valid? This aircraft has always been designed for long-haul routes. Direct flights from Halifax to Dublin or from Dusseldorf to Muscat are examples of routes where passenger demand is low, but the cities are geographically distant from each other. This aircraft enabled more economical long-haul flights. However, operational risks are also a concern here. Smaller aircraft are more sensitive, and engine issues can sometimes be more frequent. Therefore, the future of the A220 will be determined by both its technical superiority and reliability. Section 11. Airbus's quiet changes. At Airbus, some subtle but important changes have emerged in the A220 over the past few months. To increase parts supply, the company has expanded the capacity of its production facilities in Mobile and Montreal. Pratt & Whitney has promised faster maintenance programs and more robust spare parts systems for the PW1500G engines. A more assertive tone has been used in describing this aircraft, by stating that the costs associated with landing the aircraft would be borne by us rather than you. This action aims to provide risk-mitigating recommendations, particularly for smaller airlines. Section 12. The future of leasing in the second-hand market. This aircraft remains a turning point for airline companies. A220s are currently being offered in the second-hand market in various regions by many leasing companies, such as airlines in Africa and Central Asia. However, there is insufficient infrastructure, making maintenance and operations challenging. In conclusion, the A220 remains a wise leasing investment. Airbus must overcome this strategic challenge. Section 13. Passenger experience is not everything. A quiet flight is a priority for everyone seeking a spacious and comfortable journey, giving this aircraft a significant advantage over its competitors. Operational reliability is crucial for airlines, but passenger experience is an added bonus. No matter how comfortable the aircraft is, every hour it spends on the ground is a loss. This situation, especially when it has to wait weeks for engine maintenance, overshadows the A220's entire commercial value. Chapter 14. Natural transition or crisis. This aircraft cannot be considered a failure, despite its grounding or the fact that it has been parked in the hangar. Every new aircraft program, especially one created from scratch, experiences growing pains. The real losers are the airline owners who invested heavily in this aircraft, but have limited financial resources. Ultimately, how operators manage these risks will determine not only Airbus's future, but also that of the A220. At this point, the important question is, will the A220 revolutionize narrow-body aircraft in the 2020s, or will it remain a limited, specialized aircraft? Section 15. Is the A220 a disadvantage or an advantage for Airbus's portfolio? This aircraft company has developed its own range, starting with the A220, a small body jet with 100 to 150 seats, and extending to the A350, a long-range aircraft with 180 to 240 seats. This company is competing or racing against rivals in a niche market. For Airbus, this situation is both an advantage and a potential disadvantage. If the A220 is successful, Boeing will have a real chance to establish a front in this market. But what if it is not successful? Between the A319neo and the A220-300, if these two companies encroach on each other's sales territory, things will heat up. Section 16. Boeing has no answer right now. Even this aircraft's biggest competitor is far behind in terms of technology and everything else. That aircraft is the 737 MAX. The MAX 7 continues to receive very few orders, even from double-digit airlines. Airbus is at the top. Boeing is developing an aircraft to surpass this one, and the entire world is discussing this competition. If this happens, Airbus will have to spend a significant amount of money. Considering that the A220 program is still in its early stages in terms of profitability, Boeing's patience could provide a strategic advantage. Section 17. Turning point. As 2025 approaches, the A220 will undergo a major change. The reason? Maintenance times are decreasing. Spare parts are now being used more by other aircraft companies. This year, Pratt & Whitney's increased production rates and Airbus's pre-stocking tactics are beginning to bear fruit. New operators are observing. It is reported that major airlines such as Royal Air Maroc, Turkish Airlines, and Qantas are carefully evaluating the A220. A confidence issue may begin to emerge. What happens if no new orders come in? Like many aircraft throughout history that were well-intentioned but commercially limited, the A220 may continue to oscillate between success and failure. Section 18. What are passengers saying? Compared to the operator side, the picture is significantly different. Features like a spacious cabin, comfortable flight, and quietness seem to be delighting those who use this aircraft. When compared to the A320 or 737, the perception of comfort is significantly higher, especially on short and medium-haul flights. This company's new strategy is now to move towards producing this type of aircraft, as everyone appreciates the wider, more comfortable, and quieter for better sleep flights. However, this alone is not enough. Airbus must reflect this sentiment not only in its passengers, but also in its cost tables. Section 19. What will happen next? This company faces other crises in the future. However, this could also be a transition period in the long term. The A220s currently being withdrawn from service resemble other aircraft in aviation history that experienced early wave fatigue. These issues were also encountered in the first aircraft. The company gradually overcame them. Is Airbus patient and prepared to weather this storm? This is the main question regarding the A220. Secondly, is the industry open to giving the A220 another chance? Assumption interest in work to ends exactly than A220 in the operating with a disaster% of this. This company is visionary. It always listens to passengers and plans to build aircraft that are comfortable for them to fly in. However, as with any initiative launched with the best intentions, the path to success is not smooth. The A220 has been hindered by production issues, engine problems, a small fleet, and last-minute second-hand fixes. And this is not just a technical issue. If we are patient, everything will eventually come to fruition. As international airlines increasingly demand more efficient, next-generation aircraft, the A220 solution will become even more valuable, and this company has yet to show its full potential. If this company writes a comeback story, don't overestimate its owners in your eyes, because they will do it one day. Or they may remain in the industry's collective memory as another brilliant idea that was given up on too early. In the end, the question remains valid. Was the A220 really too early, or is everyone still trying to figure it out? Free you that, your focus on the ship and your listing. To show what the policies without main starn, keeping the A220 too early. I'm waiting for your comments. Let's see.